What is up? 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 What is up, Grocknation? Welcome back to the arcade this evening for a new series, a periodic series in this channel, and it's going to be in a category of book reading, such as the UFC Encyclopedia and the World of Westeros, as we've been reading along. I don't know if you guys noticed, I got my new cabinet behind me for my statues, whatever they're called, minis. They're not minis, but it looks really nice and fitting. You just can't see the front of Galactica anymore, which I don't know how I feel about yet, but I couldn't find a smaller one than this that you'd be able to see on camera. Guys, this book series is going to be about wrestling, pro wrestling. I don't want to say WWF straight up, because I spent my life, well, not my life, Jesus, my childhood, my teenage years watching both the WWF and the WCW. Now as an adult, I don't watch pro wrestling at all anymore, but it is all over my feed because I have all the classic pro wrestling pages followed. I follow the wrestlers, I don't watch the matches. Over the last maybe 8 years, I've been really following, like, careers, I guess, of these superstars, and I'll watch the occasional match on YouTube, but I haven't tuned into, like, a regular wrestling program in years. So I guess before we dig into this book, I should really kind of give, like, an introduction, or, like, a briefing on my history with wrestling, who my favorite wrestlers are, etc., because I don't see myself doing a video like that later on. But I was, like I told you guys the story of my life, one of my first actual memories in my life was when I was 3 years old, watching highlights of Wrestlemania 4, the Battle Royale, where Bret Hart got screwed over by Bad News Brown. I don't know what program it was, I just remember I was watching it. We had just moved to Edmonton, and it was on actually a kitchen table. The tube TV was on a kitchen table, and I was watching it, and I always remember that segment. But that's all I remember about that segment. It probably was like a Superstars, like, replay or recap or something. But regardless, that was one of my first memories of my life, that moment. I watched wrestling probably from 5 years old until 19-ish. Obviously, when I moved out on my own, I didn't have cable anymore, so I couldn't keep up with storylines. And at that point, I exclusively just watched WrestleManias with friends. We would get together, which was the intended purpose Vince had when he created WrestleMania, was he wanted his Super Bowl. So that's all I did. I would watch them, and I had no idea what the storylines were. Sometimes I didn't know who the wrestlers were. But I seriously started watching, I want to say, between 95 to 96, all the way up until about 2002. The entire Attitude Era, the entire Ruthless Aggression Era, the Monday Night Wars with WCW and WWF as well. All of it. I loved it all. It was great. It was good. I like that we're doing this now because wrestling was like my childhood and my early teenage years, and the UFC Encyclopedia one is like my late teenage years to my early 30s. My interests, right? Obviously, hockey was always in there as well, but yeah, WWE, WCW, etc. They hold a special place in my childhood heart for sure. As I said, I do pay attention to wrestling now. I love all the female wrestlers, well, all the big superstars. They're amazing. I actually didn't know how serious female wrestling was, or like how amazing they are, until recently. The very first live WWE match I watched in about 15 years actually was this past March, this last WrestleMania. I actually was at work, and it was live on Netflix. I was on my break, so I went to the lunchroom and I put it on, and it was Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, and I was blown away by the athleticism of Tiffany Stratton. I'm like, oh my god. I only ever see highlights, right? I pay attention to these wrestlers on highlights. At that point, I never watched an entire female match. I'd watched a few male matches at that point, like guys. on YouTube and whatnot over the years, but like I said, I only ever see highlights. But yeah, it was amazing. But it's really, really like, there's no distinction now between male and female wrestlers on the roster, not opposed to when I watched. They were nowhere near in the same stratosphere as the males back in my day, but now it's like they're rock stars now. So we should go over my favorite wrestlers of all time. I'll give you my top 5. I don't want to go through the top 10, it's too much. Number 1, hands down, is Bret the Hitman Hart. I love Bret Hart. Number 2 would be Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah, that'd be an easy number 2. Number 3 would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. As an Attitude Era kid, I was absolutely in love with Stone Cold. 4 would probably be Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and 5 would be Ravishing Rick Rude. If I were to pick out top 5, yeah, that'd be a top 5. That's my Mount Rushmore. Obviously, last week, Hulk Hogan passed away, the immortal Hulk Hogan. As a little kid, obviously, we all cheered for him. I did as well. Like, he was a real-life cartoon character come to life, pretty much a superhero. But he was never a favorite wrestler of mine, especially as I got older and I kind of became privy to his backstage politicking. And the later part of his life, he was just a pathological liar. I think he always was a pathological liar, but it became more prevalent and borderline ludicrous. You know, and I would say in the last 15 years, he really tarnished his reputation, unfortunately, because he's one of the greatest of all time. But regardless, that's my top 5. My favorite wrestlers actively, I guess I could say, from watching, like I said, highlights, matches, etc. I like CM Punk. I like Drew McIntyre. Will Ospreay in AEW is amazing as well. Liv Morgan, she's got that really awesome, like, preppy girl villain thing going on. It's really good. And I like Chelsea Green, Canadian again, and her outfits she wears. She's like the modern day female Macho Man with her eccentric outfits, and she does callbacks to retro wrestlers, like retro wrestling outfits of old wrestlers. It's really cool. So I guess that's probably why CM Punk's my number 1 active wrestler, because he's really that callback to the old school style, but he's kind of mixed in that new style. That is all really spot heavy, which is one of the turnoffs for me. Every match looks like an old school Hardy Boys match, you know what I mean? Like, it's too much. Every one of them look the same. Like, Will Ospreay on there is pretty much like that, but he's got really good technical wrestling abilities as well, so I do enjoy watching his matches from time to time. My friends will send me matches of his. I watched him with Daniel Bryanson, whatever his name is, in AEW now. That was a really good match, but yeah, I'd say those are my top 5 active for sure. I like Rhea Ripley as well. I really like her as a person and her character, but it's getting a little overdone. I think she needs to switch it up. Try something different, I guess, before she gets typecast into that one role. I guess I should say my favorite female wrestler of all time would probably be Trish Stratus. When I was watching wrestling, there really only was like 5, maybe 6 wrestlers on the female roster that were actual wrestlers and not divas that were like pushed into wrestling and they had no wrestling abilities. Trish Stratus definitely was stood above the rest, and she started out as a diva as well. Let's talk about divas. Well, my favorite diva of all time by far is Tori Wilson. Tori Wilson was a big teenage crush of mine during the Ruthless Aggression era. Obviously, as a kid growing up in the 90s during the New Gen era, Sunny and Sable were obviously big preteen, early teen crushes of mine as well. Sable especially. So you can imagine how crazy I went when Sable and Tori Wilson did a Playboy shoot together. And how mind-blown I was at the finish of their bikini match. I think it was at Backlash. My God, I couldn't believe that. But she looks amazing still to this day. I think she just turned 50 recently. I seen on Instagram, and she just still looks like ageless. But yeah, she's probably my favorite diva. But we should start getting into this book. And the book I'm talking about, obviously from the thumbnails you guys know, is 30 Years of Wrestlemania. This is a book my wife actually got for me for a birthday, I think, or Christmas. I think she grabbed it. It's used. I don't know where she got it, but I don't know why she got it for me. I guess she thought, because, like, I was in it when I first started dating her, obviously she knew I was a mixed martial artist. I told her I kind of liked wrestling back in the day, so I don't know why she bought this for me. I've never read it. Because I'm like, why would I need this? This makes no sense. I actually found this when I was digging through all my shit. And I'm like, you know what? This would be good to go over for an ASMR video now, for sure. I'm gonna give you guys fair warning. Up until about, I might only read it until WrestleMania 21 to 23, roughly, because I stopped watching WrestleManias around that time. But everything else I watched all the other WrestleManias. Some of them I watched live. We'll discuss. This isn't a book I can really dig into because, like I said, there's 30 WrestleManias on here. We can only really dig into 20, 21, 22, 23. I don't know what they are. I know by the main events. I think the last one I watched, John Cena beat Triple H, or he beat Shawn Michaels. That was the last one I watched live. I watched matches from the other ones, including, I would always pay attention to Undertaker's streak. But there's an Attitude Era book I actually came across in a hobby store in Winnipeg, and I almost bought it. I'm thinking, I was like, that would be more, I could talk about everything in there. But I was like, you know what, I want to dig into this first. So, yeah, we'll be digging into this. Like I said, it'll be a periodic. Guys, I skimmed through this. When I say it's periodic, this will probably end up being 4 or 5 videos over the course of the next 5 months. Just like the UFC Encyclopedia, it's massive. But unlike the UFC Encyclopedia, this is actually like an actual novel with pictures. Like, there is a lot of reading to do in here. And especially the older WrestleManias. Well, at least 1 and 2, they're very uninteresting WrestleManias in terms of memorable. We might just skim a little quicker through that, but yeah, we're going to dig into this. And like I said, I will add the Attitude Era book into the cycle as well. I think I'll pick it up next week when I'm in Winnipeg, but yeah, we are going to go through this book. Nice cover, as you guys can see. We'll go over the cover, and like I said, I like to take off the sleeve all the time, and we'll really skim through it and really dig into this book. But yeah, this is what we're going to be reading in this series. So let's get into it. Okay, so here it is, you guys. It's a hardcover book, but it's not nearly as big as my other books I have in terms of size. But there is a lot of content in here, a lot of reading. Yeah, I couldn't possibly read the whole thing and get through it. It would take like 20 videos, I think. So first up, let's open it up. And as I like to do, I like to take the sleeves off these books and see. Most of them have good graphics underneath. So this one has a nice rubber graphics. There's like pin marks in here or something. Look at that. So the price of this at the time of release was actually $26 in Canada, $25 in the US, and £16 in the UK. It's how much this was. What year was this? WrestleMania 30, so that would have been what was that, 2014? 2015, I can't remember when WrestleMania 1 was. We'll figure it out right away. But we're going to put that to the side for now. Like I said, the book is a little beat up, so there's a foreword by Mr. WrestleMania Shawn Michaels in here as well. Why is this so wobbly? It's kind of bugging me. Okay, let's open it up. Take a look at the first page. Oh, I like these pictures. What Jericho is that from? What WrestleMania? Don't know. I don't know that either. That's around the time I stopped watching JBL's Big Push. That's Evolution. I'm not sure what WrestleMania that is. It's Bobby the Brain and Andre the Giant. WrestleMania 3. That looks like Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth when he fought Hogan at was that WrestleMania 4? No, WrestleMania 5. The Mega Powers explode. Shawn Michaels, this is his comeback here. not sure what WrestleMania that is. That's not what The Undertaker. He came out dressed like a priest or something. Mind you, I do think he put this attire on after that intro. Like I said, I don't know. This is a Ruthless Aggression Kane. I'm not sure what WrestleMania that is, though. What is this down here? Oh, it's WrestleMania 8. The Undertaker at, not WrestleMania 8, is it 9? Yeah, WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace. Rey Mysterio, again, one of the newer WrestleManias I didn't watch. The Big Show and Kane as tag team champions. That's the New York one, so that's the 20th anniversary. That's WrestleMania 20. That one was at Madison Square Garden. Teddy Long in a SmackDown group. I'm not sure what that is. I see Bob Holly there. Didn't watch any of this era of this guy. Bray Wyatt, or the Wyatts. Never watched any of it. Hulk still rules. That would be WrestleMania 19. Who did he fight WrestleMania 19? I think it might have been Vince McMahon. Edge, I'm not sure what WrestleMania that is. Eddie Guerrero, that looks like WrestleMania 20. No, WrestleMania 20 was in Madison Square Garden. It was the last time they did a small venue. Regular arena, not a stadium. So that would be 19 or 18, I believe. Mr. Yes Man, what the hell was his name? I'm thinking of Daniel Bryanson, but I think that's Bryan Daniels. Was he called in WWE? It's one of the two. He swapped names and he went to AEW. Alberto Del Rio. I talked about him in my UFC book when we talked about Mirko Cro Cop. Mirko Cro Cop absolutely annihilated him in Pride. Who is that? It looks like Melina almost. I'm not sure though. That's Batista. I don't know what WrestleMania that is. That's Lex Luger's the Narcissus. That's WrestleMania 9. Bret Hart coming out at WrestleMania 12. I was thinking maybe WrestleMania 13 they essentially used the same entrance, but I don't see any glass down there. He was stepping over glass. And he wasn't wearing tinsels. He was wearing a regular leather jacket when he fought Steve Austin. I remember this entrance. I don't recall which WrestleMania this was. I think this is when he fought The Undertaker. I think that was 19. Shelton Benjamin. Again, don't know. Stopped watching when this guy became big. That's around the timeline. This guy. This whole era. And this, no clue, guys. I can't help you. Oh, this is the squash match at WrestleMania 12. The Warrior had against Triple H. Goldberg, WrestleMania 19, I think. Actually, no, I don't think I ever watched a Goldberg at WrestleMania. Okay. I don't think it's MSG. I think they did a WrestleMania at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And that's where they had the big building backdrop like up here. I'm not sure. We'll find out, I guess. Randy Orton, I don't know what WrestleMania that is either. Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Hart and Brutus Beefcake. I think that's WrestleMania. Is that WrestleMania 3? He was last relevant at WrestleMania 3. Or anyway, around WrestleMania timelines. So here's a forward by Mr. WrestleMania. This looks like WrestleMania 8. Where was WrestleMania 8? I can't recall. No. 8 is Slaughter and Hogan. Yeah, this is Slaughter and Hogan then, isn't it? No, what the hell? Bret Hart and Roddy Piper had their big match on this venue. I think this is when Mega Powers collide. I think this is WrestleMania 5. So forward by Mr. WrestleMania Shawn Michaels. His eyes aren't nearly as fucked off in this one. His eyes really fucked off on him. Like one fucked off to the left. No, they both fucked off inwards. Okay, anyway. You never forget your first WrestleMania. It doesn't matter if you're a fan, an employee, or a WWE superstar. You never forget your first WrestleMania. Mine was WrestleMania 5 in Atlantic City, where I teamed with Marty Jannetty as part of the Rockers. While we were not on a winning end of our match, the fact that we were on a card was a major accomplishment for us, and the highlight of my career up to that point. Throughout my WWE career, I witnessed firsthand how WrestleMania became a pop culture phenomenon, and a spectacle that no rock concert or sporting event can compare to. Performing in front of sold-out stadiums with more than 70,000 people in attendance, being part of the week-long series of events where fans from all over the world come to celebrate year after year has been nothing short of an honor. It is an event that is as special for the WWE superstars as it is for the WWE Universe. In the pages of this book, you have the opportunity to relive many classic WrestleMania moments, from WrestleMania 1 at Madison Square Garden to WrestleMania 30 at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, and everything in between. All WWE fans around the world have their own special WrestleMania memories, and I'm humbled that many of my matches are included on their lists. Mr. WrestleMania is not just a nickname for me, it's something that I take great pride in. I worked hard to give my best performances at WrestleMania. And every WrestleMania match that I was a part of. When my in-ring career ended against Undertaker at WrestleMania 26, I was completely at peace, knowing that there was no better place on earth, or no better place than WrestleMania for it to happen. Since that time, I've enjoyed watching the next generation of WWE superstars create their own WrestleMania moments for the legions of passionate fans around the world. Sit back and enjoy 30 years of WrestleMania. I can't wait to see what's in store for the next 30 years. I know I'll be watching. So, he was part of some pretty epic matches in WrestleMania history. He is right in terms of WrestleMania moments. His match against Bret Hart is one of the best matches of all time, in my opinion. It's in the top 5 at WrestleMania 12. As well, watching Steve Austin beat him and to kickstart the Attitude Era at WrestleMania 14 was good, and the fact that he did it with a messed up back is very, very impressive. Oh, this is an interesting page. Try not to get the light on it too much. So WrestleMania 1, we got the Hulkster. WrestleMania 2, Hot Rod. That's right, his boxing match with Mr. T. We got Andre the Giant, WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 4, we have Macho Man Randy Savage. That's the tournament in Atlantic City. WrestleMania 5 is Mega Powers Collide. WrestleMania 6, and that was the Sky Dome in Toronto. Warrior versus Hogan. WrestleMania 7 was the whole Sergeant Slaughter Gulf War heel turn WrestleMania against the Hulkster. WrestleMania 8 was Sid Vicious versus the Hulkster. He betrayed the Hulkster. WrestleMania... Where are we? What? 6, 7, 8. WrestleMania 9, Yokozuna. One of the cheesiest endings in wrestling history for sure. And one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big fan of Hulk Hogan. That's one of the reasons why. WrestleMania 10 at MSG. Bret Hart wrestled twice, and the first match he had is one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time against his brother. WrestleMania 11, a sorely forgotten WrestleMania, and honestly, aside from Bret Hart's match against Bob Backlund, it's one of the cheaper WrestleManias. Of all these, it's one of the worst ones for sure. The main event was Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow, for God's sake. WrestleMania 12, one of my favorite WrestleManias. Like I said, the Iron Man match, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, instant classic. WrestleMania 13 would almost be in the same fate as WrestleMania 11, if not once again, for this little pink warrior, Bret Hart. Bret Hart and this guy here, Steve Austin, put on my favorite match of all time. WrestleMania or not, spoiler alert, it took place at this WrestleMania. WrestleMania 14, the start of the Attitude Era. Shawn Michaels having to drop the strap to Stone Cold Steve Austin due to back injury. I think it would have happened anyway, but he would have had a little more of a rivalry for sure following that, but that's where his career pretty much ended initially. WrestleMania 15, Steve Austin versus the Corporation, taking on their corporate champ, Rocky Maivia, the newly turned heel Rocky Maivia. Down here we got WrestleMania 2000, aka WrestleMania 16, which took place in the year 2000. Had a final four-way title match, a McMahon in each corner, and Triple H ended up winning. X7 had the rematch with Steve Austin and The Rock, where Steve Austin betrayed his fans and joined the evil McMahon. WrestleMania X8 in Seattle. I thought that was here. this was the last WrestleMania I watched. Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle. I believe it's this one. Yeah, because WrestleMania X8 had Triple H fighting the main event. Was that Booker T? I think that was the Booker T angle where for some reason they had Triple H beat Booker T. But the best match on that card again belongs to this guy. It was him and Chris Jericho. And 19, that is where he did the infamous shooting star press and he almost broke his neck against Kurt Angle. Never watched any of the rest of these, you guys, so I can't be any help. I've watched matches from most of these. They're best matches. But I want to say from about maybe here on, I stopped entirely watching even the WrestleManias from this point on and further up till today. So, but like I said, up until about right here, I'll be good. Be good to talk about all this. I don't know if it's up to you guys. You want me to keep reading on things I don't know about, but maybe that's something you don't want me to do. Please don't make me do that. Alright, so let's... I'm trying to see if that light's going to bother him, you guys. I don't think it will bother too much. Like I said, I could just lift the book up if I can. Alright, so this is the road to WrestleMania. It's basically going to give us a rundown of WrestleMania 1. I think they give you the results of every match, but look at the amount of reading. If I had to read all this, it would basically be one... Look at that, how much it is. It would basically be one video per WrestleMania. That is a lot of reading, you guys. Friend. Oh, jeez. I really wanted to get to WrestleMania 3, but I don't think that's happening in this video. How much pages is that? That's like 8 pages, and it's full pages. Maybe we could just skim through it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not the type that likes to skim through things. But. So the road to WrestleMania. In the midst of the 80s home entertainment boom, Vince McMahon saw WWE's fan base converging with the audience of mainstream rock and roll, primetime television, and pop culture like never before. Sensing a captivating opportunity, McMahon envisioned the future of his company with younger fans and their families filling large venues. He knew that as in rock and roll culture, electrifying music, colorful attire, and sensational entrances were essential to provide a singular entertainment experience. If he could devise creative, well-executed cross-promotions to combine the strengths of WWE with the burgeoning MTV craze, the results could propel both companies to unprecedented notoriety. Abstinence yielded the initial alliance of the two juggernauts on an airplane flight. Legendary WWE personality Captain Lou Albano met pop music megastar Cyndi Lauper. Lauper's then boyfriend and manager David Wolf was a huge WWE fan and suggested the two find a way to work together. This had to be handled delicately. During these years, professional wrestling was still shrouded in secrecy to uphold the personalities and storylines portrayed on television. Good guys and bad guys, aka kayfabe, were forbidden to be seen together in public. If a superstar so much as went to a restaurant and an adversary was already there, one of them would have to leave. I remember that story, yeah. He met Cyndi Lauper in an airplane. It's a famous WrestleMania story. You guys, if you guys don't know, this is Mario from the old Super Mario and Luigi show that was on TV when we were kids. Super Mario Super Show, I can't remember what it was called. As a first step, Albano was cast as Lauper's father in the music video for her smash hit Girls Just Want to Have Fun. You guys remember that as well. My older viewers. The combined popularity of the video and Albano's famous WWE personality planted the seeds of the rock and wrestling connection, and Lauper prepared for her debut on WWE programming. Because Albano was considered a WWE villain, he would have to extend his appalling behavior toward Lauper in front of WWE fans. It was arranged for Albano and Lauper to engage in a heated dispute on Roddy Piper's combative talk show Piper's Pit on July 23rd, 1984. American television featured these two popular genres coming together as one. The event was WWE's The Brawl to End It All broadcast nationally on MTV. Millions tuned in to see Captain Lou Albano's Fabulous Moolah defend her title against women's champion Her undefeated Women's Championship reign against rising star Wendy Richter, one of my favorite old school wrestlers, who was aligned with Lauper. In a harbinger of WWE success to come, the special event was an overwhelming hit in live attendance and set an Elsing television record of 9.0, or an estimated 10 million viewers for MTV. The next big inspiration came at an unexpected time at the year's end. Vince McMahon and his wife, Linda, enjoyed a Caribbean vacation. There, Vince McMahon conceived the nucleus of an idea, a yearly destination event where WWE superstars would share the stage with iconic figures from arts, entertainment, and professional sports worlds, and it would be broadcast live on closed-circuit television. Vince McMahon recalls, "I just thought it was the next logical step. Hollywood had the Oscars, the NFL had the Super Bowl, and so forth. Why not have a WWE annual spectacular?" Vince asked Linda to assemble a meeting of his inner circle. At the time, his cabinet consisted of industry luminaires such as George Scott, Jim Barnett, Pat Patterson, Ed Cohen, and relative newcomer Howard Finkel. Vince told them the WWE would create an annual spectacle. It didn't have a name yet, but it was already booked for Sunday, March 31st, 1985. So 2015 was WrestleMania 30. This book's 2015. At Madison Square Garden in New York City. The cabinet. From the late 40s to the early 70s, George Scott and with his brother Sandy compromised the famous team aptly named the Flying Scots. Revered for his work behind the scenes creating matches, George arrived in WWE's front offices in 1983. Jim Barnett broke into wrestling business during the golden age of DuMont Network. The grappler turned promoter was considered the forefather of studio wrestling. Matches broadcast weekly from a television studio. A trusted friend, Barnett became a senior advisor to Vince McMahon in 1984. Pat Patterson was known as a prolific in-ring performer and captivating storyteller. His work with partner Ray the Crippler Stevens as the Blonde Bombers was groundbreaking. He was brought to WWE by Vince Sr. and was crowned WWE's first Intercontinental Champion in '79. Patterson was regarded as a savant in the areas of character development, storyline creation, and ring psychology. The first time many heard the name of Ed Cohen was when he appeared on an episode of Rogers Corner as WWE's charity coordinator. Ed was responsible for scheduling WWE's massive live event calendar with an incredible Rolodex of contacts. He booked celebrity talents, including Liberace, The Rockets, and Billy Martin. Through WWE's national television syndication and home video line, Howard Finkel became known as the voice of WWE. Howard handled a myriad of roles, from columnist for WWE's Victory magazine to raging talent, travel, and recording voiceovers. Finkel is also distinguished as the first full-time employee hired by Vince and Linda McMahon. Finkel was, for a long time, the main ring announcer of the WWE. A little tiny bald guy with a very distinct voice. There's Liberace. Okay, so let's get into this WrestleMania. I'm trying to have to get that light in there for you guys. I'll read anyway, so you guys aren't missing anything with this little bit of... Where's that? Right here. WrestleMania 1, Madison Square Garden, New York. New York. The announcers are Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. Let me tell you something, Gorilla. The ring announcers are Finkel. So, funny story. I can do an immaculate Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan impression. It's not ASMR at all, so I'm not going to do it here. Locker room correspondents Mean Gene Okerlund, Lord Alfred Hayes. Special guest ring announcer for the main event, Billy Martin. Special guest timekeeper, Liberace. Special guest referee for the main event, Muhammad Ali. Special guests for the main event, The Rockets. So here's the event card. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T in a main event defeated Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. So it was a tag team match for the very first WrestleMania. Only 2 WrestleManias were ever not main evented with a title match. This one and WrestleMania 11. Women's Championship match. Wendy Richter with Cyndi Lauper defeated Lani Kai with Fabulous Moolah to become the new champion. The World Tag Team match, Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik with Classy Freddie Blassie defeated Mike Redondo and Barry Windham with Captain Lou Albano to become the new champions. Intercontinental Championship match. south of Jimmy Hart. The Body Slam Challenge, Andre the Giant defeated Big John Studd with Bobby the Brain Heenan. That's right when Andre won. Was that the one? No, that was the DiBiase. He was throwing the money in the crowd. Other matches, King Kong Bundy with Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart defeated SD Special Delivery Jones. Steamboat defeated Matt Bourne, who, if you guys don't know, is Doink the Clown. The original Doink the Clown. David Sammartino with Bruno Sammartino versus Brutus Beefcake with Luscious Johnny Valiant. Went to no contest. And Tito Santana defeated the Executioner. Very lackluster in terms of spectacle matches. WrestleMania, it's very forgettable. It is very important, obviously, as it was the very first one. It started everything, but in terms of so let's look over what this has to say. This first WrestleMania for sure is one worth reading. Pretty much everything, because we want to know the history of how it all started and everything. So 19,000 were in attendance, which is like the average arena size now of any general wrestling event. But WrestleMania events are usually held in football stadiums nowadays, and they're usually around 70 to 80,000 people. The strategy. McMahon and his brain trust had just 2 months to create the WWE spectacular they envisioned. With the ground still shaking from the formation of the Rock and Wrestling Connection, Hulkamania running wild in the brawl to end it all success, McMahon recognized time was of essence. To launch the WWE into the stratosphere, he needed to use his promoter savvy that dated back to the days of his grandfather, Jess McMahon. McMahon knew fans were familiar with annual events. Many territories hosted yearly happenings, often billed as supercards, a collection of high-profile contests presenting famous rivalries, never-before-seen matches, and top attractions. By and large, they were marked in the traditional NWA fashion of legitimate sport and entertainment. Big one is NWA at the time was doing Starrcade every year in Atlanta, Georgia. Was it Atlanta? Atlanta, Georgia, did I say no? Oh geez, where it was? Oh, I can't remember. I think it was in Georgia. To realize his vision, McMahon needed to implement a more diverse promotional approach. Distinguishing WWE from other brands across the country, his signature was operating, marketing, and promoting WWE like an entertainment company whose primary focus was professional wrestling or sports entertainment. McMahon explains, we didn't have to be pro wrestling like everybody else. How do we label this? How do we sell this? My dad was always more entertainment oriented than most of the other promoters anyhow, hence the phrase sports in terms of athleticism and entertainment, because that's what we do. It was important to satisfy the loyal WWE fan, and McMahon was confident that Madison Square Garden would sell out. However, with a star-studded assembly of celebrities scheduled to illuminate the stage, it was crucial to entice casual and prospective new fans. Where am I? I lost myself here. This event needed to be exciting, accessible, point of entry for people to get acquainted with the WWE product. Look how young Mean Gene looks there with Bill Martin. The celebrities Billy Martin, most famous for managing the New York Yankees, known as New York's #1, Martin's explosive personality qualified him as a guest ring announcer. He was one of the early first stars. Liberace epitomized show business, known as Mr. Showmanship. He combined piano prowess with the spectacle of live theater. Mr. T achieved pop culture status after his performance as Clubber Lang in Rocky III, which he was also in with Hogan. Hogan was also another person in there Rocky Balboa would fight. Leading up to WrestleMania, he was promoted as an ally of Hulk Hogan in the unwavering battle against Roddy Piper, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and Cowboy Bob Orton. Muhammad Ali first formed a relationship with McMahon family in his 70s when Vince Sr. and his son promoted Ali's boxer versus wrestling match. Vince McMahon believed that the man known as the greatest was the ultimate special guest referee to expand the appeal of WrestleMania. Many wrestling purists derided the notion of including such savvy celebrity involvement, even within WWE. Some had difficulty accepting it. Then agent Jerry Briscoe recalls, I think the biggest resentment was not so much having them as part of WWE, but when you inserted them in the ring and told them, this is our business, this is what we do. Many of the guys asked, why are you showing these people what we do in the ring? Because we work so very hard to keep what we do professional. It was a very, very old school mentality these wrestlers had. It was such what's the word I'm looking for? Not like a. It was such a little tiny community of performers that did this sport at the time. It wasn't known. There was no internet, nothing like that, about how they took bumps or their little trade secrets. And it's polar opposite today. I mean, there's a Netflix documentary right now about how they're writing the stories now, so it's completely gone. But back in these days, it was taken very, very seriously. Setting the stage, the event's framework was taking shape, but the question was, who would buy a ticket to watch the event on closed circuit? Vince McMahon remembers it wasn't cable TV as we know it today. It wasn't pay-per-view. It was in an arena with a giant television screen and a projector. It didn't work for the Indianapolis 500 and a number of other things. It was the biggest gamble I've ever been involved with. Who knew that WWE fans would pay their money in an arena and watch television? So yeah, it was like it was arenas, it was movie theaters. That's how these original pay-per-views, these closed-circuit events, you'd pay a ticket and you'd go sit in your local theater, and they'd have a projection, they'd show it. But that's how they broadcast these first few WrestleManias. Vince McMahon and George Scott looked at the roster of WWE superstars. Oh, geez, you really can't see it, can you? Now you can see it a little better. By the time WWE had personalities and rivalries that received national attention, Andre the Giant, Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and others, the WrestleMania card had the heightened attention of WWE's existing conflicts, select the right mixture of celebrity interactions, and make sure newer matchups thrill the crowd. This set the stage for the war to settle the score, using the same format as the brawl to end it all. The event did exactly, I think that's a UFC title as well. The event did exactly what it had to do. It exacerbated the bitter quarrels and rivalries between WWE personas. Once Mr. T asserted himself as Hulk Hogan's blood brother, the main event for WrestleMania was established, and all the entertainment was talking about it. Roddy Piper remembers, I had kicked the most popular woman in music in the head. I slapped the biggest television star in the world. I tormented Hogan and chased poor Dick Clark into the dressing room. I couldn't go anywhere. I'm with my family and I'm fighting my way out of restaurants. They'd even serve me. If they'd even serve me, he says. One of the greatest remaining obstacles in ushering WrestleMania to the light of was money. Linda McMahon remembers in the 1976. Vince and I went bankrupt. We had spent years rebuilding. To take a risk like this again was quite scary, but Vince truly believed the concept. It hadn't been done before. Offering something on closed circuit meant you had to broker individual deals with the venues themselves all around the country. You had to rent all the equipment necessary to carry the event. We didn't have that kind of cash, so then to convince a bank to give us a letter of credit to do all this. You just know the letter of credit would be due the morning after WrestleMania, and it was tense the whole night. We hawked everything we owned for WrestleMania. Vince McMahon and his new concept were often met with arrogance and anger from regional promoters. At times, hostilities escalated to actual threats of life. On his life. For as many people who wanted WrestleMania to succeed, an equal number outside WWE rooted for it to go down in flames. Many superstars felt if WrestleMania didn't succeed, they would be out of the job. WWE would be out of business and to be blackballed by the promoters in other territories. Pat Patterson remembers everyone was excited but also very nervous. This was the biggest event of everyone's lives. You had a sold out Madison Square Garden, celebrities, everyone wanted to showcase their abilities. I feel like I should bring up Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon here for those of you that don't know. They're in a really, really, really bad light lately. They're sexual predators. In one case, one person, Vince McMahon, is actually getting charged for his sexual prowess, I guess you could say. I don't want to get too much into it now, but Pat Patterson, for example, is he was making, because because he's homosexual, he was making young boys do favors to get hired on and stuff. It's very fucking gross, so I don't want to get too much into that. Vince McMahon was shitting on a woman's head that he was seeing because he likes to degrade women. That's the whole thing. I hate to throw you off, but just thought I'd throw that out there. That's just a small taste of it. McMahon knew the best chance to reach new viewers was to do something almost unheard of as a wrestling promoter. Opened the door to mainstream media. Until this point, the industry was a bit of an anomaly and not welcoming to outsiders. Furthermore, the mainstream press often took any opportunity to criticize the industry. Vince told me, recalls Patterson, we're going to issue press passes. We're going to allow photographers who are not WWE employees to shoot at ringside. And WWE superstars are going to do press interviews. He wanted to get rock and roll fans, sports fans, boxing fans, and young people to know what we were doing and want to see it, and he did. Who is this? This is so old, I don't even know who these wrestlers are. It almost looks like, it's not though, I was gonna say, almost looks like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but this guy's too thick. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T appeared on CBS Morning News, The Today Show, and the late night talk shows. Reaching the apex of television entertainment at the time, they hosted Saturday Night Live on the eve of WrestleMania, but keeping Mr. T on the right path proved challenging at times. As Ed Cohen remembers, he was, as I like to describe at the time, more show than go. After a long day of travel and press appointments, WWE superstars make a point to train the gym. Mr. T rarely accepted the invitations to work out with them. I received a call from a colleague. The person said Mr. T fired one of our employees, so we kept that employee away from Mr. T to give him the illusion that the person was no longer an employee. Unfortunately, Mr. T did not get along with one of the WWE's biggest stars, someone he was scheduled to work with in a main event. Roddy Piper recalls, everything started with T and me at the first press conference. The press was taking pictures, and T flexes his arm and says, feel that? It's pretty hard. So I looked at him and squeezed his head and said, pretty soft. I didn't know we were not allowed to touch him. He traveled in a limousine, had an entourage with him, and had his own dressing room. I felt he didn't have respect for our business. We just liked each other to this day. That's a story I never heard. I love Roddy Piper, though. A tradition begins. WrestleMania became the hottest ticket in the Big Apple. Linda McMahon remembers the governor's office called celebrities. Everyone wanted to see WrestleMania live. Tickets from my family were stolen off my desk and scalped on the street. Linda was surprised. About an hour before the opening bell, she recalls, a WWE employee said to me, we just had some people go up to the freight elevator. They are demanding seats. When I asked who it was, the employee replied, the Hells Angels. They weren't rude or threatening, but they expected to be seated. Of all the WWE superstars at the time, Vince selected one of the most beloved tenor to work the opening contest. At first, I was disappointed. Tito Santana reflects, this is not to disrespect Buddy Rhodes. Oh, that's Tito Santana and Buddy Rhodes, I guess. That is Tito Santana. I recognize the face now. Or Chico Santana, as Jesse the Body calls him. Where are we? I looked at the opening match as an insult. Right before I walked through the curtain, Vince said to me, the reason you're here is because the first match is a do-or-die situation for the company, and I need someone who can get the people on their feet, and I couldn't think of anyone better than you. Santana's match versus the Executioner, portrayed by the multi-talented playboy Buddy Rose, did precisely what it needed to do. It got the sellout crowd pumped up. Just like that, WrestleMania was off and running. The afternoon's action kept the audience on its feet. Among the highlights, a monster emerged from King Kong Bundy, flattened SD Jones in a record 9 seconds. I remember that squash match. I think it's one of the record for the fastest WrestleMania match of all time. The combat featuring Cyndi Lauper with Wendy Richter against Fabulous Moolah and her protege Leilani Kai, I'm not even sure how to say that, continued. And WrestleMania would not have been complete without an Intercontinental Championship defense. Greg Hammer Valentine remembers opponent Junkyard Dog. There was a lot of pressure because I was friends with JYD, but we never worked together. The Dog was a traditional wrestler. He was a great performer and in another way a great showman. I was so proud to have the match with him. Roddy Piper, if I remember correctly, smacked Wendy Richter in the head with a picture, like a record picture frame, if I remember correctly. God, I loved him as a villain. So there's his, Bundy after a squash match. They were really introducing him as the next big villain for Hogan. Battle of Giants. Okay, this is it. He's throwing the money out, see. Inaugural WrestleMania featured a spectacle body slam challenge rivalry between Big John Studd and Andre the Giant captivated WWE fans everywhere. Despite being 6'10" to Andre's 7'4", Studd long boasted that he was the only true giant in WWE. He took great pride in proclaiming that he had never been and could never be slammed. During the preceding November, Studd's stable mate Ken Patera, a former Olympic strongman, by the way, gold medalist strongman, and leader Bobby the Brain Heenan had cut Andre's hair. This presaged Andre's triumphant WWE return at WrestleMania, seeking redemption in a $15,000 body slam challenge. The crowd roared as Andre, the eighth wonder of the world, lifted his enemy over his head, slammed him, and ultimately claimed victory. Andre really didn't like Big John Studd. He was really stiff with him in their matches they had. He wouldn't sell anything. Selling in wrestling means pretending to take damage. Like if you guys are going back and forth and a guy's pretending to hit you and you're not reacting to it, that's called not selling. A Cold War upset leading into the World Tag Team Championship match. Many truly considered the trio of Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, and their manager, the legendary Classic Freddie Blassie, to be public enemy number one. The Iron Sheik explains, "I was not a character like other wrestlers. I love this country. When I moved here, I was an assistant coach for the U.S. Olympic wrestling team. But my anti-U.S. comments were for business. I'm Iranian. During those days, the people really hated me because of the Iranian hostage crisis. People waited in the back of the buildings to fight me. They felt they were defending America. Nikolai Volkov remembers, I hated communism. I escaped Russia when I was a young man. I didn't want to be a Russian sympathizer. Freddie Blassie told me the best way for me to fight communism was to show how evil it was. He suggested to Vince to put Sheik and I together. It worked right away. We had people in the ring and try to attack us. It was dangerous, very real in those days." So, professional wrestling, WWE in general, has a long history of bringing politics in terms of wars into their storylines. As far back as in the 50s, 60s, there was Nazis, Nazi heels. People would pretend to be Nazis, Ivan von Raschke, the Iron Claw, etc. Not the Iron Claw, what was his name? The Iron Claw, the patriarch of the Von Erichs. Regardless, and then, like I said, there was the whole Iranian thing with Iron Sheik, and eventually, like I said, Sergeant Slaughter, the American war hero, would go on and become one of the most hated stars of all time following that storyline. Like, he betrayed America. Audiences couldn't wait for Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, the U.S. Express, to bring Sheik and Volkov to justice. All four were accomplished athletes, intensifying their competition during the Cold War of the 1980s. Mike Rotunda reflects, Sheik was an Olympic wrestler, and Nikolai was so strong and an accomplished boxer. Barry and I were not only close friends, but we were brother-in-laws. He played college football, and I wrestled at Syracuse University with Iran and Russia being America's mortal enemies. It was a match made in heaven, especially at WrestleMania. The main event. The evening's action whipped the fans into a frenzy for WrestleMania's final headline match. A mano-a-mano clash for the WWE Championship between Hogan and Piper had already taken place in the war to settle the score. This conflict became more about a way of life than championship accolades. When McMahon witnessed the crowd's reaction to Mr. T, he knew it was time to raise the stakes. A tag team match would headline the first sports entertainment spectacular. Each team would have a representative of their choice in its corner. To no one's surprise, Ace Orton would shadow the Piper camp, given the history with the opposition. Hogan and Mr. T had Jimmy Superfly Snuka by their side. Another dirtbag wrestler, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, he actually murdered his girlfriend, and this guy covered it up. Vince McMahon, like I said, terrible, terrible people. Hogan, like I said, a pathological liar, a racist for sure. I wouldn't even put Hogan on it as evil as this guy is, but there was something else I was going to say. Oh, Ace Cowboy Bob Orton, that's Randy Orton's father, if anyone's wondering. Leading up to the main event, Pat Patterson remembers, Vince instructed me when Muhammad Ali arrives, let him know what he's going to do as referee. I kept talking to Ali and just got a feeling that he wasn't 100%, so I said to Vince, I don't know if Muhammad Ali can referee the match. Vince asked what I suggested. I told him, I'll referee the match. We'll have Ali as a referee outside of the ring at last minute. That's what we did. So Ali was actually going to be the referee in the ring. Normally with guest referees, they usually do put the money outside. I'm thinking of, they had another famous heavyweight champion boxer legend. Mike Tyson was a special guest referee at WrestleMania 14. It was the same thing. He was on the outside. As Mr. T and Roddy Piper went nose to nose, the decibel level at Madison Square Garden skyrocketed. Even the celebrity guests were compelled into the action. At one point, Ali jumped into the ring to get at Paul Orndorff. Patterson remembers that wasn't expected. Orndorff then goes at Ali and threatens him. So when Billy Martin heard that, he started to take his tuxedo jacket off and was out. We had almost a real brawl in our hands. In the final moments, a miscue from Bob Orton led to Hulk Hogan's victory for his team and Piper knocking out Pat Patterson. Roddy wrestled my dad when he was coming up. WrestleMania, Hogan, Mr. T, Snuka. We were hated everywhere we went. My favorite time in my career was my time with Roddy. There was never a dull moment. That was Cowboy Bob Orton. When the event came to a close, the backstage atmosphere was exuberant as a live event at Madison Square Garden. Wait a second, Cowboy Bob Orton. Oh, he's talking about his dad, Senior, back in the day when Roddy wrestled him. When the event came to a close, the backstage atmosphere was exuberant as a live event at Madison Square Garden. WrestleMania was an overwhelming success, with worries about the bank's letter of credit hanging over McMahon's like Damocles sword. I don't know what that is. Questions weighed on their minds. How did the rest of the country do? Attendance figures started to come in from closed circuit operated across America, says Linda McMahon. We got a call around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went to Vince and said we just broke even. The inaugural WrestleMania was viewed by more than 1 million fans on closed circuit television. According to Vince McMahon, the success of WrestleMania 1 really put us on a map. It coined the phrase sports entertainment because we were trying to figure out, okay, we are here. I mean, the kitchen sink was thrown into what we normally did, and it caught the imagination of media and people all over the world. As Vince McMahon and Lynn McMahon enjoyed their final celebratory moments, they realized that Vince's dream for a national sports entity had been realized. Time had proved that while there were challenges ahead, the best was yet to come. Okay, guys. So we are going to do WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3 in the next video. If you guys like this content, especially my wrestling fans, these WrestleManias start to really become more legendary after WrestleMania 3. So, like I said, these first two are kind of duds in my opinion. These first two and WrestleMania 11 are probably my 3 most disliked WrestleManias. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what your favorite WrestleMania moments are, your favorite superstars, whatever it may be. And with that being said, guys, everyone have a great day, great night.